call this committee meeting of the Buildings, Property, and Cemetery Committee meeting to order right now, and it is now 4 o'clock, 4:02. Let's see, the first thing on our list is the dog waste containment.
Miss Cole called me just a few minutes ago, said she was at the end of 153 and she was running a couple minutes late.
Okay, so
and
we
can come back to her if we want to.
We'll come back to her again. Okay, we have the downtown parking.
I have before you a proposed lease.
Okay. That was prepared by the railroad company. Lease agreement prepared by Norfolk Southern Railway. In exchange for $2,000 annually, they're willing to lease to the town the entire frontage of the railroad from West Tavern Street, behind where Tim Bowers is building it, all the way down to include what we already lease. The town owns a little corner property, almost at the railroad underpass. We have a little triangle of property. The remainder is Norfolk Southern. We already lease, I think we pay $450 a year for basically where they wash cars, okay, and we park. This would be for the residual portion of the frontage on the railroad, all the way to, not quite to the back of Dr. Bradshaw's office, but just to the south side. There's a little ditch that starts, that's wooded. It would start at that ditched area and go down. The reason why I bring this to you is looking at downtown parking. We've heard from other people, we don't have a problem, we don't have a problem. Well, we certainly don't want to have a parking problem, but we're having a problem with residential activities on second floors. A lot of the folks do not have the ability to provide the parking required for apartments, i.e. Kim Moody at Trend. Their building is the four corners of the property. They could not provide off-street parking. And so the council had to waive the requirement, basically.
So if I'm just looking at the $2,000, and then it says on an annual basis, a percentage of increase upon the index.
That CPI would be
like that
2 or
because,
3%.
I mean,
The current ones are on CPI.
are they? The 450?
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
CPI.
So to cover that, granted it's $2,000, but if we're doing a favor to those that do not have a parking spot, should they pay for a spot?
See, I think we need to be able to
Annually?
sell shares, or I haven't thought enough through
I mean,
it.
should it be $100 a year? You get your parking spot, and you don't have
You
to.
can lease a parking spot from the town,
And it's not
or
going to
you
be
can-
a spot. It's going to be just.
a space.
Yeah.
Was
And-
there something in the lease about subletting?
Well, that may be, yes. I think that the agreement has to be directly with the town, so we may have to not necessarily
Well, it's
call
not
it a lease,
saying-
but
Well,
that,
it's not saying that that's their spot. That's pretty much. I mean, they can park in any municipal lot.
yeah, maybe we don't sublet, maybe we call it something else, but some sort of an arrangement so people could pay a pro rata share. If I can't provide the parking spaces, and you got a parking lot over here, this is designated that I can pay the town, whatever the proper figure is, for 2 spaces or 3 spaces, or, I mean, good example is Tommy Watkins. Okay? He's got the jewelry store, and his building is the 4 corners of his property,
That's right.
and he could put as many as 5 or 6 apartments in there, I think, per Tommy. Well, he could never come up with 12 parking spaces. So, one alternative is saying, well, no, you can't do it, waiving the rules, or making accommodations.
Currently, right now, how many apartments are in Blackstone that do not have a parking spot?
Kim Moody,
That's 2 spots.
Aren't there apartments being built over the tactical place?
there already are.
But I think they have enough
They have a
parking.
big
They
around.
have
parking
enough
lot back
parking
there,
lot?
yeah.
Okay.
They've got, I believe, either 4, 5, 6 apartments.
Okay.
Now, is your plan to pave this and
Yeah,
whatever?
do it
Is
nicely.
this what you were talking about, Philip, I thought the discussion, you were trying to make this prettier across here because it looks so bad with the mud.
I think Zach has even mentioned that there may be some Main Street monies for landscaping.
I always thought from the underpass over First and Citizen, the underpass looks bad too, it needs to be improved, but this whole area, so this part of your downtown, people see the
Tell them,
tracks.
tell them we'll pay the $2,000, but we keep that metal up there and we'll scrap all that metal. They won't move. I mean, they'd be sitting on a lot of money.
It's $1,000 of metal, is it?
Yeah.
Now, if we can't lease or reserve lots for people that needing apartments, we could reserve spaces in the town lot.
There's a way around it, yes.
So-
However we need
And when
to
I,
do it.
when I say that we lease them a lot, a spot, they're not gonna have a designated spot. It's just saying that they're paying into having a spot at a municipal lot. So whether that lot's over here at Bevel's or over here, I mean, I don't think we have to designate where they need to park.
I think there's some of the requirements that we have to be at least 20 feet from the center of the nearest rail. So we're gonna have to come back and there'll be a retaining wall, maybe it's a landscape blocking, maybe it's concrete, whatever it is, and something there, maybe some antique lights down through there, kind of a thing. Curb and gutter, maybe some entrance.
I mean, I just got down Brown Street the other day, and it looks like the back street 1 block off of Main, and it's all off, it could be part of your downtown, because it is part of your downtown.
They're agreeable to it, if we're agreeable to it, and I really would like, that's what generated the request, not the beautification part of it, but the Kim Moody request.
Is there a way though to lock it in though? Because if we put money into paving it, obviously you don't want them 2 years from now saying, "Oh, we're out of it."
I'd have to find out. I don't know. This is like a year type of deal.
If you're gonna put infrastructure on it, we need to,
Have some kind of a permanent
yeah.
time frame, 20 years, 40 years.
Can you go back and ask if it's all right, Christine, to ask about, I guess you'd say, spot leasing, however we need to word it.
I don't want to lure them just yet,
Yeah.
but figure out how to do
And
it.
then,
You gotta market that correctly if you don't want to go wrong. You know, suddenly charging people a parking
Yeah.
spot, only one person have his charge. I mean, just.
Well, it's
you
gonna
gotta
have to
market-
be-
I think it's fine, just gotta market it right, you know.
But it'll only be as part of a rezoning
yeah,
application.
correct.
It won't be for everybody, oh, I want 2 of those. And I'm gonna put my truck with the panel box
Yeah,
truck with the sign
that's
on it.
right.
So it has to be
Correct, yeah,
applicable,
that's,
because every apartment proposed in Blackstone downtown has to have a conditional use permit.
I mean, you may only have 4 people that ever need a spot. So, I mean, granted, it's not like you're going to.
I would like to try this. I think that we have the opportunity. I think you guys may have been involved on Brown Street years ago with Larry and there used to be some really gnarly railroad tracks that went across through there, and those came up.
Larry
And
took all that out when he did the change up there, but I think the town owns the place with Cyrene, right, that little lot.
we own the
So you
sign,
tire into that and clean that up too, because that's all rode up and you can make it all.
clear it off.
It'd be so nice across there.
And there's some really bad invasive trees out there. The tree of heaven grows along there, so it would be nice if they could be cut down and eradicated.
And Zach had the idea of maybe partnering with Main Street to see if there's money for light poles or landscaping blocks or something.
We'll ask and see if there's any way we can put in here about a longer term.
Longer term, if we're gonna pave it and all
We're
that
gonna
kind
be
of
putting money into it. I don't wanna put it 2 years ago.
So shall we get this information and bring it back to
Yeah,
committee for
I don't
next
think
month?
it's a rush to.
So we're gonna continue, this is gonna continue for next month. Okay. All right, well, I see Daphne's here, glad you're here. I hope you drove within the speed limit.
Yes, I was closer than I thought.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to head and talk about waste, dog waste containment, please.
Thank you for having me come in and talk about this again, but the James River Association has a division called River Rats, and there are various projects that the people that participate in this help the James River watershed. And in particular, so you can come up with different projects, and they have stipends up to $500 per person or per project for this particular area. And they've already approved that that it can be done. The way it works is that my husband and I would actually put the money up and purchase the boxes, and then what's held us up is, where should they be located? I know you were interested in down close to the Armory, seems to be a good place, the park. And I know, I think it was last year, they had something with the Easter. I know that people said they were walking around the park rather gingerly, saying, there's a lot of dog waste out there. So depending on what kind of boxes you could have, maybe 3. I had the idea that you needed, and they do say that it's handy for you to have there's a container that goes underneath it as well, where they deposit the materials. And there's a sign above that explains how to use the plastic bags. And that could be a continuing this. It is a project they could probably allow us to continue to order bags or whatever, but if we're going to put it on public property, I just need to check and see. And of course, there was discussions where to put it. Perhaps also over where the emergency squad is on the corner. It's nice that it would be somewhere where someone could watch it, like there at the museum. That would be a good place for it, just to, just thinking ahead, what people might do to these boxes if they're out there. Will they appreciate them or will they destroy them? So that's the question is, do you have a place, and looking down the road, are you willing to commit to, is the town willing to pay for the bags that go in there? The boxes, you can come with ones that just have one roll. It's kind of handy to have like 3 or 4 rolls that fit through there that you go through.
I think we had voted at the council meeting that we'd have liked to take you up on the offer for the 3 stations, depending upon where, and the town would be responsible for the bags in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, so the question is where?
I think the tavern would make good sense somewhere right in that area.
Okay.
I think Sea Park would
Sea Park.
by the library.
Okay. And then,
And if the
or
rescue
if you
squad-
want to just do 2 boxes, then that's fine too. Do you want?
You say the rescue squad, that's a very well-traveled area for pet traffic.
People
Right.
bring dogs through there in that whole area.
So
Well, that's what I was thinking. It would be
as long as the
convenient
rescue squad's agreeable, but that is.
because they're not town property then.
Well, is that town property, Philip, the rescue squad?
It is not.
Do we help build it?
Should
I
we
think we did.
put it at the fire department? Although
No,
it seems like that's closer in.
We'll ask the rescue squad. I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
Okay.
That won't be an issue.
Okay, because if that's true, then I'll go ahead. Are you all okay about 3 or 4 bag issues that go through there?
Yeah,
Instead of,
we've already voted as a whole to go ahead and do the 3. Now, I think we probably ought to take it back to council just on location.
Yes.
okay,
So, yeah, you can go ahead and order them.
okay, all right. Well, we'll do that. And there was a certain price, that we could start out with the bags that they do. But at least, I also think it's a good educational tool because a lot of people don't think about that they need to clean up for a dog. We've discussed this before, that animals are natural, but they're naturally can give us diseases. Yes.
What is the cost for resupplying the bags?
I see this picture down here. It has 3 boxes, and I don't know if it includes 3 boxes or just 1, but it's $75. It says you may also be interested in this item.
Oh, I see that, okay.
I don't know if that's for 3 boxes or,
And I forget how many they said
it's
were
200 already 200 bags
included.
I think that would be plenty. Okay. Well,
No,
thank
2
you so
rolls
much.
of 200, excuse me.
Okay.
2 rolls of 200. Okay.
All
All right,
right.
so we're good on that, and so we'll order, and then you guys
We'll
flip a
discuss-
coin and
we'll-
decide where it goes, and y'all will do the maintenance part of it as far as checking on that. And you're okay with the trash can down below?
Yeah, I think that's would
Okay.
be a good idea.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
so much, Daphne, appreciate it.
Do you want that as a motion, just so the council will have it for the locations?
Would you make the motion?
I move that we ask council to approve putting a dog containment station at Swartz Tavern, wherever Philip or Zach sees fit. Sea Park at the library, and then talk with the rescue squad about being at that location.
My second. All right. Any further discussion on that? Are we ready to go on?
All in favor?
All in favor? Thank you, Jennifer. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, next item is cemetery lots repurchase.
We've had requests from people who would like to who would like to sell the town of Blackstone cemetery lots. And our town code does say the town reserves a right of first refusal on the sale of all lots. Okay? So obviously, the fathers of Blackstone back in the 30s had some idea that they may be buying some of these lots back. But my fear is as these are owned parcels of property, we've got to make sure if we're going to buy it back, it's just like selling timber. You've got 12 heirs and one of them wants to sell the timber, and you've got to make sure that you've got a legitimate documentation that you're buying back from the correct person who owns the lot and the only person that owns the lot. Okay? So what Tessie's drawn up for me is, and I think there's 3 documents for you to take a look at. The first of which being is where she gives a 5 bullet point explanation of what needs to be done in order to effectuate a transfer. The second of which is a certificate of repurchase, and basically that's a document showing that the town indeed did it. We're government, we like forms and documents. But the last one really is the important, that's the affidavit, that I really am the owner. And I really do own these lots. Because what's happened is, maybe mom and dad have passed away. And is this the only child, or does she represent the family? And so this is an affidavit thing.
An affidavit, will it stand up in court if someone comes back and?
And well, we can tell them to do title searches. But I think if it's a will, Tessie's requiring that they provide a copy of the will, showing that they're the,
What did Tessie think
Yeah,
about?
I think I had to do that, we had to do that, we got 2 lots that they placed up in fall, we were supposed to have to either take a will or a copy of daddy's death certificate to be able to buy them back.
you gotta,
What did Tessie think about, and I don't know if our records will allow it, but buying back at the price that they purchased
oh,
it
you can only do that. And I think the town code already says that we'll purchase it back
at what you
at
paid for
$100 or $200 or whatever the price was at the time of purchase. Now, we can find the certificate where they bought them, so that's not a problem to go back and say, Betty Jones bought these lots for $100 a piece back in 1955, but we buy them back at the same price they were sold to us.
Which,
Yeah,
I mean.
we don't
I
allow
hate
the
to say this,
speculation.
That's how you make it worth your while, but I mean, you buy back a lot that you sold for 200 and you're now selling for 400.
Yeah, so the profit motive is to the town,
Yeah.
the motive to do it. Now, the property owner wouldn't, I guess the kids or the grandkids who may be selling it to us at this point, they'd get something out of it, but, this would allow us, and these are the documents that would be associated with, this would allow us to tell people, yes, but I do think that the town council needs to vote on these. Okay, I can do them, and it's not incredibly hard, but I do think an act by council should
Purchasing
reflect it.
property, so.
Purchasing property back from the town, expending money, all those kinds of things. I do think it's one of those things, so it's not just quick and then oops. I think it's something good that it would go through town council or through the Building, Property, and Cemetery Committee to take a look at each of these and say, yeah, we recommend it or we don't recommend it. Now,
On an individual basis?
on an individual basis, I think.
So
it
what
should-
about those that
It
have
ain't gonna be
already,
that many.
Okay.
so we have the right of first refusal. So what happens to those that have already bypassed that and have deeded their lot over to someone else? I mean, because I'm sure that happens very often.
Confusing is the dickens
Oh, I'm
too.
sure.
Oh, yeah, because we don't have, we got records from the original. Now that I'm learning the cemetery, we have the original, and oftentimes, Ursel was pretty darn good. If you look at those old notes in Gwinnett too, when she knew that so-and-so had given a family member some lots. Jane Daniel, we put a headstone up for her yesterday. I marked it the day before, and there's Patterson on one side and Daniel on the other. So apparently there's some family agreement that the Pattersons will use 4 lots and the Daniels will use the 4 lots. We don't always have record of all that stuff, and that makes it confusing when someone comes up and said, I want to be buried in the Daniels on that, it's not the Pattersons. So that's just the nature of the beast that we've got. We've got that in the cemetery in places.
Is that already in the policy that the agreement when they sign that they have to let us know, they have to offer the lot back to us? Is it in writing now?
We have a right of first refusal, it's in writing.
Correct, but is it in the agreement that they sign?
It is not. The agreement they sign is,
So they don't know that we have the right of first refusal, is what I'm saying.
unless we start
Unless we
handing it to
Just
them.
tell them, so
The
obviously we
town
need to
code
start-
says it, but no, we don't inform everybody, we have the right of first refusal to buy it.
Start informing people.
Well, we may have to include that on what they sign. The town reserves the right and give them a copy of not only our policies, okay, but there's already also a set of ordinances on the town's code that's online, okay? And I think Jennifer included a copy of those for everybody as well, okay? So,
Is there, would there be helpful to have a notice in the newspaper with that, so people will know ahead of time and not surprised at the time? They're
No,
only
I-
gonna be grieving, and then they have something thrown up at them, and they're gonna say,
Well, I don't think at this point we're gonna say, oh, well, that's, your cousin had that lot. At this point, I think we'd have to correct it from this point on.
okay.
If someone else has it now, it's,
and I think, like I said, Gwinnett and Ursel, they were really quite good at it, and I think Warren got some lots from you and all
I
that.
don't know if we ever changed those deeds, I was getting ready to ask you that, so he need to come on down and get that changed.
Yeah, we need to at least document it somehow and write it on
and
something
again,
like
I'm not,
Ursel did to say, oh, Warren Dalton's got 1 through 4 and.
I don't think we need to go back, because that, what's past is past, you can't. I mean, if someone deeded it to someone else.
But I do
not
think
the
we need to
same.
codify that process somehow, not to prevent it, but just so we know, so
Correct.
10 years from now, somebody shows up and wants to use one of these, well, wait a minute, that Jane Daniels got control of that, that's not yours. Okay. And I use their name simply because we put up, there was a foot, or a headstone put up the other day.
So we need to probably get a motion from this to take to the council.
On the part that I'm ready for, which is the certification and affidavits, and with the understanding that repurchases will come back to you.
And that from now on, all lot purchases will have to sign
Or transfers,
knowing that we have first right of refusal, correct?
and we'll give them a form and make them sign that as well.
I make that a motion. All that
Second.
into one.
Second.
We got a second, Barbara, thank you. All in
And I do
favor?
think you're gonna get
Aye.
one relatively quickly from a fellow over in Lunenburg County. He's got
fine.
4 or 5 lots.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And read that ordinance also, because we don't buy individual lots back. For example, let's say there's 8 lots,
There's one.
and there's 2 people buried in there, we don't buy the other 4. If you've used any of the 8, or any of the 4, or any of the 2,
Makes sense.
we don't buy back.
Because it's not usable to another family.
Because the headstone may be there, whatever. We don't buy partial lots. If it's divided into an A grave section, we will only buy A graves. We don't buy 4 of them back, or 3 of them back, or 5 of them back. And that's already in the town code as well.
But now, could people, like, just say Miss Dalton bought 8,
Mhm.
she could give
Transfer.
4 to.
Yeah, she can
some-
give
she
them the
could,
one,
but the
and
town can't, is not gonna do it, right? The town will not buy those back.
we would not buy 4 lots out of an A grave section from.
So then the
Sharon.
first refusal doesn't count on that.
The first
I
refusal.
wanna buy more, not less.
Yeah.
And I talked to you about buying the Ford that was on the corner and just dedicating to the town, just to where I could put the marker on the corner so it'd be even. Remember that?
I don't remember that, but we can certainly
I mean,
discuss.
just $1,600 would be in the town's.
Whatever you wanna buy. We're not gonna stop you from buying cemetery lots.
But we just need to,
No, the pole on the corner, that's got the tree on it,
Correct.
and I just wanna be able to.
the town reserves for landscaping or for signage or for any purposes, and if you read the town code again, the town reserves the corner 4 lots in every block of the cemetery.
Gotcha.
Okay, maybe not some of the old sections, but certainly in the newer sections. If you go over there in section 17 or 16, where you guys have family members, you'll see there's a crepe myrtle on the corner, and that represents 4 lots.
What helps with the turning radius too.
Yeah.
Because if you had a headstone put right on the corner, yeah, it's gonna get whacked by people
So
turning.
the town reserves 4 spaces on every corner, and you're talking about buying them.
I'm talking about giving down $1,600 for those 4 lots, so you're not doing it, and I'll put something on there that nobody will ever be buried on. I just wanna be able to put my other marker on the corner instead of having a big L-shaped thing. I've got what?
Come on down and bring your checkbook out. We can always
He said, come
use
on
the
down, so there you
Bring
go.
your checkbook.
I'll have to say tonight.
Okay, let's go on to the next item, and that was the talking about, have a drum roll, cemetery policy. Okay, we attempted to go through this at the last one, and we just ran out of time because it was the last item on the list. And I was wondering if we could have some way to have a definition, because like permit. The permit is not the permit to bury the person. At the permit, the money is used for maintenance.
the burial permit, you mean?
The burial permit.
The burial permit is actually, believe it or not, it is the form that's prepared by the funeral home. That's the burial permit. And in order for you to sign it and execute it, then we've been collecting the fee. Now, if you wanna just, don't call it burial permit, but there is indeed a burial permit. If you just wanna call it a charge or a fee or whatever, prior to the execution of the burial permit.
So where it says right here, permit fee of $200.
We can call it something different. But
Yeah, that has been.
Maintenance fee, or, I mean,
It's
like
for
you,
maintenance.
like you said, Christine, Ms. Hatbrook, sorry. Your, goal is for, I think you said it, for the cemetery to be self-sustainable. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but this is that step to,
yes, ma'am, we can
attempt.
call it something, a maintenance fee instead of a burial permit.
Because what's happening then, you can, if I can explain this right, is a lot for $400. 10% of that goes to perpetual care.
Also correct?
And perpetual care is not the ongoing maintenance, it's a fund that is set aside that should something happen to the town, there would be a lump of money that the cemetery can carry on. Okay, the eight,
What
nine,
percentage did you say?
10,
10.
That's the minimum the state,
We get to keep 10%, the rest of it goes to the perpetual.
no, 90% goes to the operating fund.
Okay.
We're not talking a lot of money.
Oh,
We've done 27 or 28 permits this year, $200 a piece, so that's 50, 54, 5,800, when I do my math right.
mhm.
And then we've sold maybe 10 lots at $400 a piece. So we're about $10,000
Yeah.
of collections for the year, 10% of which has been earmarked back for perpetual care. 90% is operating and perpetual care.
It used to be more, correct, the percentage?
It was
And
more,
we
and
lowered it
And you
to
lowered
try
it to the
to.
state minimum to generate more cash that the town
needs to be able to pay the personnel to keep the grounds going, and it still is not enough.
No.
And the state code says no more or not less than 10% shall be.
But I don't think increasing the price of graves though is gonna, I mean, because,
Just not enough. Actually.
yeah, I mean, we increased it, we doubled it, what, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah. Ben and Sam were on the
Yeah.
council then, so it was less than 4 years ago. Yeah.
So since that's item number 1 under the cemetery rules and regulations, do you wanna start there and you wanna come up with a name that you wanna call that fee?
Any recommendations?
You know, maintenance fee, to
Maintenance
me
fee.
It's
is,
for cutting grass and flat out, that's
Yeah.
what you
Alright,
can
so-
leave and cutting grass.
I'm gonna make
Or
it,
will be a lawn maintenance fee?
is that what you want, lawn maintenance fee?
Well, that's
Or
also
just
gonna be, it'd also be for, you use about $1,000 a year for fixing,
Stones.
stones.
Yeah.
So
I think
that-
our last invoice was about $950.
yeah, I'd just say maintenance, because that will cover,
Maintenance,
Yeah,
yeah.
maintenance.
it will cover it all,
Maintenance.
because we do it all.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Alright.
Alrighty, the second statement of that, the family agent of the deceased must come to contact, and I think that one can be, stand as it is. Do you know where that, do you have your it's about halfway through your list, your sheets of paper. The third statement is no pets permitted on the premises. Has that always been like that? No pets
No,
allowed?
that was adopted recently too, and I think we've ordered signs for that, we just haven't put them up until council has final say on that.
We want to put all the rules on the sign, so we haven't bought a no pet sign. But yeah, I think council, I
Jennifer
don't know,
was
have asked
upset
you or
about
two.
that. Jennifer was upset about that.
No, I don't go in
You
there.
could put a dog waste containment.
Well, I'm thinking about people who had pets that were very close,
Yeah.
and I think we need to be able to recognize,
To me, it's meaningless, it means nothing in there to me, so if we just took it out, I'd be fine with it. And allowed pets, I mean.
Well, then that would be a good area for one of the
Yeah,
pet stations.
the law, town, oh yeah, the town leash laws are still in effect, yeah.
there's
And you, still the laws of you pick up the waste. I
People
mean,
could ever take their dogs out of here.
Correct.
Like their kids.
Yeah.
this one is from another cemetery. Dogs will be allowed in the cemetery only when confined in a vehicle or on a leash. Pet waste must be properly disposed of.
Sounds good.
I'd say insert that as
And
number
let's
3.
insert that.
Make it easy.
So, and so would that be a good place for one of the containment centers?
I think so.
Yeah,
but
sounds like
we'll get it, I mean,
I'll get the 3.
yeah, we'll,
Don't worry about it.
yeah,
We'll
we'll,
talk
and
about
it may
it.
I
be,
think that's
it may
what-
be
I
next
got-
year, we put in the budget to buy another one, or another 2, whatever.
Do you want this?
Yes, if you don't mind, then I'll put that with my notes here, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, then, the next one is about leveled following, graves being leveled, and graves should be leveled following interment. If the grave settles, the sole financial responsibility of the funeral home for 90 days to ensure the grave does not settle. The town will sow grass on their lots at its expense. In the event the town is required to level graves within 90 days, the cost shall be assessed to the operator of the funeral home. That stands as is. Is that fine with you all?
So it says the town will sow grass on bare lots at its expense,
You can do that,
meaning the town's expense, because
Town's
in the,
expense.
yeah, okay, so not the funeral home's expense, it's the town's expense.
they backfill it. It used to be 6 months they had to be responsible for the settling, and when Mr. Hamner was on the committee, he said that, that's a long time, and we think that 3 months would be more
3
appropriate.
months.
So the
Yeah.
3 months is fine.
Okay.
And, if it's this time of year, there's no grass gonna grow on it, so ultimately we'll get some grass early in the spring and we'll put it on. It's kind of fruitless to plant a lot of grass right now. I don't think it's gonna do much. But yeah, we do it on the naked lots, we get the grass on.
So do you want me to make that at the town's expense?
Yeah, just to make sure it's,
It does say that, town will sow grass on bare lots at its expense.
edit, but he said, is that, he
It
asked,
doesn't
is that the
I mean,
town's?
that's,
Oh,
You wanna make it 10?
sure, at the town's expense.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, number 5, that was what we worked on the last time, and the first sentence we kept, it was no growing flowers, ivy, trees, or shrubs may be planted on lots. We kept that sentence. And then we had just scratched everything out except the last part and put in arrangements will be allowed year-round. And with all arrangements being removed by March 1st of every year for, we didn't have.
An annual cleanup or whatever.
For annual,
No, don't say disposal, that sounds bad.
for annual cleanup.
What about the one arrangement per grave? How many,
If you've got multiple family members, they're,
That was taken off.
Yeah.
yeah, I have no problem with more than one.
per grave or per family section?
I think they were just taking it off so you really can,
I think, just speaking up, you need to take it off. I only have one child, but if I have something on my husband's grave, and my son in Florida feels the need to call a florist and have them deliver something out there, he doesn't need to be denied a right.
and they're not the lots that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the ones that have the entourage of stuff, the stuff everywhere. That's,
That's something
Well,
different.
there's very few of those.
oh yeah,
You're gonna have.
you're gonna have them.
Okay, so I was not at the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
So we got no growing flowers, ivy, trees, or shrubs may be planted on lots.
That sentence stays.
Okay.
We take out, let's see, only fresh cut flowers and potted plants as well as artificial flowers designed. The next sentence can stay.
Okay.
What about what James Dalton asked y'all about his urns that he keeps flowers in?
I think that the next, yeah, we'll talk about the containers.
Because they're alive, they're live flowers, except for the part time of the year that there's nothing blooming, and then he puts in
Yeah,
artificial.
yeah, I think artificial flowers and fresh or potted plants as well as artificial flowers designs may be placed temporarily and shall be removed no later than 30 days following interment. But
James has a unique situation because James is actually doing what we wish everybody that wanted to just put stuff everywhere, which is have a concrete permanent, it's not permanent, but a weed eater won't hurt it. That's what we like to see, that a weed eater won't tear up a plastic pot or rip a teddy bear or something like that.
so we
Yeah.
can put in a statement like preferred containers shall be
I mean, preferred, yeah, because
concrete,
Marble.
marble,
if you want,
stone,
or you can get those metal vases, I guess, that
Metal.
people stick. I know my grandmother, I believe, has one in the front of her grave. It's just, I think it's just, I mean, it's been there forever. It's about that big around, and it
so
just.
we got concrete, stone, metal are the preferred containers. And,
Okay, so only the fresh cut flowers and potted plants as well as artificial flower designs may be placed temporarily and shall be removed no later than 30 days following interment. So artificial flowers have to come off as well. Is that right?
now,
Yeah.
no, I think that would just follow, following burial, and then we could allow arrangements year-round. How about if we just take that second sentence out, just arrangements allowed?
I think what that sentence is trying to accomplish, and I would like, again, don't know what the committee was thinking. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but you know the tripods that sit out there. I think that's mainly what they don't want. 10 of those tripods sitting out there.
And fresh cut flowers and potted plants should be removed after 30
Correct.
days because they'll be dead, right? The flowers will, if they're fresh cut flowers, so maybe only fresh cut flowers and potted plants may be placed and take out the artificial.
Okay.
Do you want to try that? Does that make sense?
May be placed and shall be removed no later than 30 days following interment.
And that's for fresh cut flowers and potted
Potted
plants. Okay.
After, that's a after burial.
Yes, right after burial
After burial.
for 30
Flower
days.
designs.
Okay.
Okay, so only fresh cut flowers and potted plants may be placed temporarily and shall be removed no later than 30 days following interment. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then we'll add a sentence, arrangements will be allowed year-round.
Okay, so
With annual cleanup of March 1st or,
With all arrangements being.
arrangements will be
how do you,
allowed.
how can we word that for March being, say if March 1st falls on a weekend?
March
This year.
1st or soon thereafter is practical.
Can we just say the first week of March? I mean, just that way,
With the first.
because soon thereafter, then I want to have it I want to have it definite. That way, when people, if we do take one off of someone's grave and they say, well, hold on, you said or soon thereafter, that meant,
Their soon might be different,
Like
real
the
soon.
first Monday in March, or the first Tuesday in March.
yeah. We, fine with me. I mean,
First week of March is fine.
yeah, just
The
say
first week of March,
So you're gonna
each
have
year.
each year. So you're gonna have 1 week that if you want to keep something in the cemetery, you should have it off the grave. Or otherwise the town will get it the first week. The
Okay, so
first,
arrangements will be allowed
say,
year-round
say the
with
first
the first
full,
week of March.
first full week of March, I think we should say, because it could end up being a Friday being. I know I'm nitpicking, but you know people are gonna come back and find loopholes, so that's why I'm trying to.
But the first full week of March
Will be removal period, will be cleanup week.
will be clean up week annually.
Yeah, annually. If that's okay. We commit. I
That
mean,
sounds good.
I know it's putting a lot of words in there for something that's simple, but
So then the one arrangement per grave will be allowed, so take all of that out, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so all of that out, and what we just said will be replaced there. So is it still one arrangement?
I think if somebody wants to put a saddle with arrangement and they have concrete, they got, you know,
that's the other part. We need to probably create a separate,
We use the term footstone and headstones down in the cemetery. And a footstone is flush to the ground, or approximately flush to the ground. Some of
you can mow over it.
And then a headstone is the traditional, what you would see in the cemetery. Maybe you can say something like one may be placed per headstone, one arrangement, and then each individual space may also have an arrangement, or each footstone, or not every grave has a footstone, so that may not be that. Each individual space may also have a.
I don't think we're worried about if they have two saddles on it or whatever, because you can only put so much on top of it anyway. But again, I mean, and it's not many, but how do you limit the radios that are put on, the paraphernalia that's added to a grave? That's what we need to, that was ultimately what I think the past committee looked at, trying to solve, was those few issues that we would have.
Yeah, it was the stuff.
It was the paraphernalia that was added to the,
well, on those particular, that could be a case-by-case basis. We're talking with those individuals that are having a lot of things. Maybe they could put in a cement, a 1 foot
yeah, you mentioned that.
slab that they can put their things on. I think the thing is that it's very hard for the people maintaining the lawns to have to move that stuff and put it back for maintaining the lawn.
But if it's there the week of March 1st, it'll be gone.
It's gone, yeah,
Right?
correct. Everything, I think, is included in that deal.
So we're gonna permit statuettes and all that kind of stuff.
Now, when we say everything will be removed, that's all flowery, all flower. Say James from over at Bevel's, he doesn't have to remove his concrete pots, but if there's stuff in it, it needs to be removed. That's how
I
I'm,
would think that would be right.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
That could be refreshed.
yeah. So his pots, he doesn't have to go pick up his pots every,
How about, I wanna also, and I'll keep my mouth shut after this, exempt American flags,
it's fine.
the flags that are put in there. And I do think we need to address the placement of flags. Because we do have a problem with everybody and their brother going in there and putting the flags up, taking them down, moving them and all that sort of thing. I think it just ripe for a problem. That it needs to be a recognized organization registered with the town. That
If
would
you're
be a
putting it on,
W with a-
if you're putting it on other graves,
If you're putting it on other than your own.
other
grave.
than, yeah, I agree. It should be,
Yeah, we need to stop it. It's pretty rampant. People going in and the Confederate stuff is
yeah.
got out of hand.
As long as it's a recognized organization, they can, I mean, but how do you, I mean, restrict that?
Flag may be placed without penalty, and I don't plan on taking up American flags on the 1st of March,
Yeah,
unless they're really in bad shape and
They're tattered and-
bad, torn up or something like that. But the American flag, I really want to just make them off limits, and I guess the Confederate flags as well. I would word it that if placing American or Confederate flags on a grave, it shall be done by you're entitled to do it for a family member, but
it needs to be the veterans, or it needs to be,
VFW or Sons of Confederate Veterans, or
Yeah.
whatever they call them.
or Boy Scouts.
Or
Could-
Boy Scouts, or
yeah.
the Nottoway ROTC or something like that.
Correct.
But it just needs to be a recognized group by the town of Blackstone or the town council.
Can't be Zach Whitlow just going in there taking it under his own
Confederate flags
initiative.
up.
A recognized group by,
The town council.
And again, you're still gonna have people going in there and put flags up, because you can't monitor it, but it's in writing at least.
And I think we can stop some of the stuff going on right now, by adopting something relatively soon, and we just say, you can't do this anymore.
Gotcha.
But if they have a family member, that isn't a member,
I
that
think the
was,
state code requires us to have a cemetery open so you can visit your family. Yeah, that's why we couldn't close it at night, because we talked about hours of being open or operation. And like state code's pretty clear, you're
I
gonna,
remember we discussed that, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago. There was a guy that had traveled from a ways away and was on a motorcycle. And he rode down into the cemetery, and the police went down there and was like, hey, what are you doing? And I think that's where the talk came about, and we have to allow them.
you have to allow people's access, and, because the thought was at one time put
A gate.
a gate at
Close
both
it.
entrances and close it at night.
I know there are some cemeteries that do close at night, maybe not in Virginia, but where I've been elsewhere,
State code requires you to make it available.
at dark.
Or if I have a cemetery or graveyard or sites on my personal property, I've got to allow a family entrance
Yeah.
onto my property to get to the
Do.
grave.
Really?
I cannot prevent somebody from going. I don't have to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry who may want to put a deer stand over there, but if it's a legitimate family
Yeah.
notification, then you gotta let them go in there, you can't block them.
All right, do you have the point about the preferred containers and also, saddle?
okay, so arrangements, they're just, there's, the word arrangement's not gonna,
One arrangement per grave, that's out.
right, so arrangements will be allowed year round. So we're just gonna leave it at that, right?
With
It's got the date.
one annual cleanup, starting,
Right.
or with the first full week
So
of
it's no
March.
number of arrangements, it's just
No.
arrangements will be
Yeah,
allowed.
arrangements.
And everything comes out first of March.
First full week,
Teddy bears,
first full week of March.
first full,
Has to be
within that
March.
7 days it'll all come.
Yep.
Easter never falls that early, but.
No.
It never comes that early.
What happened to the cleanup day that's gonna happen at the cemetery?
What's it gonna be?
That's what I asked, what happened to the cleanup day? You said we was gonna have a cleanup day at the cemetery.
Well,
We knew
our
they
cleanup
had
day
kids
is as
running
soon
out
as,
down there.
we can get out from under, putting up Christmas decorations and all this thing. We need to do some work, there's some wash spots in there, we wanna do some bush hogging down along behind the roadside scale's house, trim the crepe myrtle.
Over to that fence was really needs to be cleaned.
Do what?
Over to that fence just really
It
needs
needs to be
to be cleaned.
cleaned,
I
yep.
carry bags and bags and bags.
There's somebody that's rutted up a area right up there
Trying
next to where
avoid
Rachel
the
Wynn's house
bushes
used to
on
be.
the side. We need to do it, and, I know we can count on Councilman Nash to assist with the crepe
I'd
myrtle
be
trim.
glad to help. I played on the yoke while I was gone to Missouri, but.
We can count on him.
I don't know if I'm coming out the floor.
And we have some dead boxwoods and things that need to come out of there, and a dead live oak tree in the cemetery at the very end.
A
A
dead
dead live
How's
oak
it a
tree,
dead
dead
live?
live. Part of it's dead and part of it's live.
Live oak is dead.
I don't know who did it. But there are 2 live oak trees in this cemetery. One of them is not a live oak, it's a dead oak.
It's a ditto.
But it's got Spanish moss growing in it.
Yeah, it does.
Like
Only
it-
one I've ever seen, the only one I've ever seen this far north, yes, sir.
That's one of them. And, you know, I see them all the time when I was a kid in Florida and places, but
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen up here.
It's
amazing.
Spanish
It's
moss.
that
Well, that may
bottom,
be
though.
a endangered species, we
I
may not be
think
able to cut
we-
it down.
it's on the other one. It's on the line of live oak.
I saw that years ago, it's a red bottom is what it is, it mimics.
We cut all these big, nice trees, we cut them, I say, because we have to. But that's also what makes the cemetery. I would love to see, replacement of trees at some time. I know it
Leaf
causes
producer?
leaves, but that's what makes the cemetery too. It's shaded in areas and it's just nice, but that's for a different conversation. So,
Okay, so we carry on, folks. Okay, number 6, I think, and Stan, that's about the equipment used by the funeral home. It says any contractor shall be removed from the cemetery property immediately following usage. And it goes on with it, no time shall any equipment be permitted to remain overnight in the cemetery, no fill material remaining at interment shall be left in the cemetery, all excess fill material equipment may be placed in a location designated by the town.
there was one piece of equipment left down there this weekend.
I talked to
I don't know who it was.
him.
It was a blue tractor.
Okay, and also, recently we had a tent that was left up there for a long time. And that was one that Cindy wanted to take down, but she decided not to because of the liability of
Her doing it?
her doing it.
Really?
Why would you want to take it down?
Just because of people coming in. It was, what weekend was that? It was a weekend that there were a lot of people gonna be in town. It might have been Arts and Craft Festival that, you know, people
I
visiting.
think the thing to do is if it's in there for an extended period of time,
If it's in there long, I mean,
Just
it
call
should
funeral
come
home and say, "Y'all need to
down
come
pretty
to
soon
Yeah,
thereafter.
yeah.
I don't think taking them down themselves.
They have done a good job with the dirt though, for
On
the
the other
most
side,
part.
yep, that's much better.
All right, so next, so that one will stay, and then we talked about the vaults shall be used for all burials. 2 vaults may be placed in one grave, one on top of the other. I think that one's okay to stay.
Does that happen often down there?
2. It's more common in the older sections when infant children die.
Oh,
If
okay.
you look at the
So it's
footsteps, it's
shallower.
oftentimes April 1917 to May 1917, and it'll be in the grave with them.
Gotcha.
That's a military cemetery thing.
Oh, is
And
it?
maybe it, but it's most
So
common
someone could come in and buy a single grave lot and they could actually bury 2 people on it?
in a 2 grave? Or
In a
one grave?
one grave,
Yeah, you could do it.
because they can bury them. I mean, that's fine, that's their preference, so they just have to dig a lot deeper, obviously.
You could put, like I said, that is the military, where 2 go in the same grave, okay?
Gotcha.
If you go to Amelia,
That-
Veteran Cemetery over there,
On top of each other.
parent can
These
ask,
have been
or
very
a
long and
spouse can be buried on top of
buried
the,
there. So that had been on top of it.
we haven't had any of this since I've been here, the only ones we've had is 2 urns
Yeah.
in one plot
Gotcha.
since I've been here. But in the old section, there's a significant number of infant children, I guess children who died more frequently when they were small, and they'd be buried with their parents.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'd say leave it as is.
Okay, and then the last one is special conditions requested by family regarding burial, et cetera, must be approved by the town manager with an appeal being directed to the council. And has that happened?
What does that refer to? What kind of
Moving
special?
headstones in the different places, things like that. You didn't come, actually, there was an appeal for Sharon, where she
Yeah.
wanted to locate her headstones,
Not being in the middle of
not
the,
being in the middle of an acre section, things like that. Other appeals like flowers and things, I'd just be like, well, policy's policy, if you wanna go to council, go for it, everybody's got the ability to come up here anyhow and ask. But I
So-
think the gravestones and the sighting of the footstones and the headstones, not completely per policy, has been really the only appeals that we did.
Well, like Cindy's family thought in the old section, she was concerned that that was gonna change, and we said that was not going to change.
She is, by this ordinance, not permitted to put another headstone in there. But there are multiple instances where people have done that in the older section. But we have one policy for the new and the old sections. She has I don't know if it's a 4 grave, 8 grave section, but
I think it's an 8. She got a pretty decent size.
she's intent on putting a raised headstone on each grave, as I understand. And
But that's typical for the old section. That's typical for the old
It's
section,
more common, yeah.
more common.
I think we need to keep with the tradition of the old section, because that's what they were expecting.
Does that one have borders around
No,
it?
the rules have never been that you can do it.
They
They've
just
never
did
been
it.
able to do that.
Somebody just started doing it.
Yeah.
It just, I think it just got done.
Do those have borders?
Or
Does cities
appeals
have
were
borders?
approved, for example, I think, David Osborne told me maybe George Cummins. If you read our ordinances, it says he'll be buried on an east-west axis. If
That's
you look
right.
at
His
Cummins,
is-
he's north-south.
That's right.
And there's another one in Blackstone. So appeals, like Cindy's, I think it should be a case-by-case. I think if Cindy has a legitimate reason, hey,
And Cindy's is inside, she's got borders on all sides of hers, so that's one of those that doesn't cause an issue with mowing, so I don't think that'd be an issue at all.
I think that should be an appeal to the council.
I think
If you
so.
want to do that, yeah.
Okay, so we should tell Cindy that her request will be
Brought to council.
brought to council.
Yeah.
I think that's the most.
If she, whatever, yeah, her request should be brought to the full council.
Anything different with the footstones, headstones? I think if we just say, well, let her do it, I think, man, the next one's gonna say, let her do it, let's go through the process, and if somebody else wants to come up and say, I want the same
Correct.
consideration. they can
And
bring
again,
it.
like I said, most of the placement of the headstone and stuff is for ease of maintenance. And she's within that, she's got borders around her whole thing, so it's not like you're taking a lawnmower in it.
Yeah, maybe kind of with a weed eater.
Yeah, it's being cut with a weed eater, so.
Okay,
I do think that's the best way to handle the foot and headstone request, and then
okay,
come to council.
okay. Alrighty, are there any other,
Say we had an issue last year, Christmas trees, are these allowed? So where in here does it say? I guess trees?
Only fresh cut flowers, potted plants, and artificial flower design.
Okay.
I don't think anywhere in here people want to
So,
put statues or
You can't,
figurines or anything. Kind of
can't put a teddy bear or,
not supposed to. Only fresh cut flowers and potted plants and artificial flower designs may be placed temporarily. That's what this said. I think we
Yeah.
made some modifications to it, but I mean that's like transformers. Is that part of all materials or not
Correct.
all materials? It's-
again, it goes back to, we prefer materials being concrete or metal that you place
so
your,
we put preferred in there,
yeah.
because we know that teddy bears and trinkets are still gonna be put on the bricks, because that is their part of their grieving process.
Yeah, that's,
And
as
that
Wade
is just
Hamner
something-
instructed me, that's, man, you don't know how people are gonna grieve, you know?
Yeah.
Until you go through it, you don't know.
Yeah,
That's right.
But the sentence you're reading now is only for temporarily and shall be removed no later than 30 days after interment.
But they're allowed to keep them up year round, right?
yes.
Not fresh cut, well,
It
Not
doesn't-
fresh cut
it
and
doesn't-
potted plants, those
Yeah.
have to be gone
within 30 days.
within 30 days, but artificials may remain year round
And it says no growing flowers, ivy, trees, or shrubs may be planted on lots.
at any time, right?
So then it doesn't say specifically what can be put on there and what can't.
It says this may
Which you
be,
cannot.
that's the same thing we did with the transformer, remember the guy came up and made the appeal, because does all materials included, did you specifically say transformer? No, we just said all materials. If you want to ban that stuff, you're probably right, you probably need to specify.
So
These
really,
are the only
with-
items that may be placed.
with what we're proposing, as it is right now, that we've done so far, we're changing nothing except for clarifying, plus putting as one time a year cleanup. That's mainly what we're doing.
You're doing away with that 6 days a year,
Well,
that you're
in-
allowed to put
Yeah,
stuff out there and being a little more,
so that's the only things we're changing,
And we're adding the flags.
adding flags.
and I would add something about the teddy bears and
Yeah,
stuff.
and that's gonna be where it gets touchy.
Oh, it's gonna be tough.
But, and I don't mind if they were out there for a short period of time, but I've been by there plenty of times when they're out there for 6 months and they really start looking pretty gnarly. That's,
Yeah, I mean, you leave stuff on the rain, I mean,
Yeah.
figurines aren't so bad, but the,
the only thing that helps is if they put it out there on March 10th, we got a full year before you go and
Well,
remove it.
again, it says only fresh cut flowers and potted plants. So I think it already says you shouldn't put anything out.
It's always said
I
that,
think it says
correct.
nothing else. But so we don't run into another one when we come in here and
We need to
someone says,
specify.
well, they didn't specifically say I couldn't put this
Teddy bear.
What
solar
about,
light or
what about concrete teddy bears?
Again, I don't think statuary is an issue because that's concrete, so that's fine. But
Use the word rubber resistant
it's
or
the
anything?
teddy bears and stuff. When you start getting a string trimmer, man, it shred them things up.
plastic flowers blow over, they get real brittle too.
Weather resistant might be a
Okay,
better,
I don't know, but what does everybody else do?
Doesn't
Always
allow
stop everybody
Yeah, they
else.
just don't allow it.
Very, I don't know of any policy that I've read that allows people to
Sometimes
just
you
go out
gotta
here and
find
put.
that right word, you know, it's,
I haven't seen anybody that permits people to just go out there and put a wagon or.
Yeah.
A lot of them, it's got a lot of stuff in.
Huh?
If you drive through a lot of cemeteries, you'll see a lot of them.
That may be the case, but I don't think there's any policy that permit it.
Well, I think we need to say something because, of course, it will be brought up. So it needs to say what is.
Acceptable.
I tried to keep that down there, straightened up a little bit, it's like I went down, cleaned up that nasty pumpkin that I knew. Try to keep things where you all don't see it and kind of stress it.
There was a pumpkin on a
Somebody
grave
else is
not
doing
far
it,
from here.
And I let them clean all that stuff up and they went throw it in the grass. Pumpkin has been out there since Halloween, it's nasty. You know,
So how do you word that
How much controversy are you willing to endure? Because if you ban it, you're gonna have, it's banned now. Our current policy says you can't do
Yeah,
that stuff.
the
It's
policy
just-
before the
The town's just
council.
never been really cognitive
Enforced.
about doing it.
yeah, unless it gets egregious and then we go and pick it up. But
And
then
then you've stolen all my stuff,
Yeah.
you know? And how do you argue that point?
can't you put something in there about if people have stuff like that, that they have to maintain it? Keep it organized?
yeah, but then what is their level of maintaining? How do you maintain? I mean,
How
when
about
they
just
go,
say it has to be located on top of the headstone, not the footstone, but a headstone?
You can't do
So-
that though.
Why?
It does.
Why?
My clocks all look really nice and it's not all on a headstone. My headstone's not built where you can put
well,
anything
I
on
think
it.
we're talking about teddy bears
Teddy
and
bears.
stuff. So if they want a teddy bear, it needs to be strapped to a saddle. Really, is I guess
Off the
what they're,
ground.
Off the ground.
Off the ground.
or on the ledge around it.
Now, how about Miss Dalton's statue out there,
It's
is that allowed?
concrete. It's weather
But I mean,
resistant.
I'm not trying to call you out, I'm just saying,
I know.
we're being specific here, is that allowed?
I think the issue is
Right now, technically, no, but I think with a weather resistant,
I don't think, I
ornamental,
think
whatever.
the concrete things are great, because that means easy for the town to work
Happy.
around.
The town has never had to cut not one single blade of grass.
Correct,
on
but I'm
all my
sure-
lots.
We gotta look at it as a whole. We know that you cut it, so we gotta look at those that don't cut their own, even if they do have concrete. I like the idea of it being on the grave. It needs to be on
On the grave.
the headstone. Because there's a ledge around them, now they gotta figure out how to attach it.
Anything that's not waterproof shouldn't be on the ground. That's an easy thing to say.
so that's what we're saying.
Yes.
Just, they won't have to say where to put it, they just put that it can't be on the ground.
It could
It's not
always,
waterproof.
it's just like the lady with the little Winnie the Pooh and the treasure chest and all that. If she wants all that, have a floral arrangement.
Made with it in there.
A grapevine wreath, have it attached to it.
Yeah.
If
And again,
you
I-
raise stuff
I
off
couldn't
the
imagine the hurt and loss she went through, but I like the idea of being on the grave, on the headstone. It's up off the ground. It's easy to weed it
Not
away.
it waterproof shouldn't be on the ground. And that's simple.
You're
Don't
thinking
punish
hard,
everybody
Christine.
else for what one person's doing.
I'm trying to think of a sentence way, you know,
Oh, way to word it.
arrangements will be allowed, and we need to specify the arrangements would be. We repeat that, fresh flowers, potted plants, artificial flowers, and other weather-resistant materials may be allowed year-round.
Correct.
How about weather resistant materials such as statuary? Or concrete or permanent flower pots or something like
Say
that, bronze?
concrete, because you can get statuary that's resin
It breaks,
and
yeah.
it just chips, it's not, so I think you need to state, if it's
Clarify, just-
statuary, it needs to be concrete
What's
statuary.
weatherproof mean?
Yeah. It's bad that you gotta do this, but,
My sausage not concrete.
Masonry.
say what?
Masonry?
Masonry, I like all.
What is it?
Masonry and construction, they.
We can work on that.
Masonry.
We can come up with some wording to move the process along a little bit,
Okay.
something defining
Yeah,
weatherproof.
we get the gist of it, I mean, we
So
know.
we're not finalizing this today.
I'd love to. if we
I'd like
can.
to.
Well, then
Yeah.
we need to
Leave
be
it
specific.
out.
Get it over with.
I'm not,
Okay,
we can add that to it before we get it to council, just describing what it is. Saying masonry, saying stone, saying concrete,
and metal.
Yeah, and metal.
that would be
We
the
did
wrong
that, we
way.
did that with the containers. Preferred containers are concrete, stone, metal, head.
Legal definition of
You know,
stone.
preferred containers,
You know,
or preferred,
Want metal, get the,
ground, if
want metal rust.
I know.
permitted items
Well,
include,
like the metal, I don't know what kind of metal it is, but my
Uh-huh.
grandma's had one in front of her stone now. Shoot, it's probably been 20 years.
Uh-huh.
what is it?
And it's
It's
still
It's a
fine.
vase, metal vase,
Mhm.
bronze,
Bronze ones,
whatever
yeah.
you want. Yeah, maybe bronze, I don't know what it is.
Okay,
Okay,
well, we
so-
need to be specific here so we can.
Okay,
put this in the
arrangements would be
policy.
allowed year-round. Preferred,
Permitted items include, is that what you said, Philip? Permitted items include,
okay, we'll include fresh flowers, potted plants, artificial flowers, weather-resistant objects.
Off of the ground, I mean, should we say,
No, 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 the weather resistant stuff is cool on the ground.
that's
It's the way
true.
we eat around.
Yeah, that's right.
Weather resistant, objects, constructed out of concrete,
hold on,
There you go.
masonry,
Yeah,
stone, or metal.
metal.
Now, if they want to put a teddy bear, a plush,
Gotta be on top of the stone.
Or on the
headstone.
ledge of, as long as it's off the ground.
So we don't flop it all in pieces with a.
And like Ms. Stewart said, you can make a saddle, and all that stuff could be included on the top of it, really, I mean.
so then it's not all items need to be on the headstone because that's not gonna be the case. So
You
how do
can
you
have-
word that?
I would say that if you've got a concrete angel, and we can weed eat around it, I don't have any, I'm not trying to do anything with that. But if I've got a teddy bear, it needs to be set on the.
So how do you wanna word that in the policy?
I don't know. That's where you come in.
The way Philip just
I
said
know
it.
what I want.
Use the word fabric,
Ow.
or fabric, or actually stuff, or fabric, I just don't know what you use for it. Just out of.
Or just say you can't put that stuff in the soda stand.
I think that's the way it was.
and it's not gonna be followed.
It's not gonna be followed, it'll be controversial. I mean,
Yeah,
you're gonna
that's
have a
why
big
we're
crowd
taking the
something.
extra minute of time to do it, so.
That's realistic, I mean, you can adopt rules, but the enforcement is not the hard part, it's sticking with the enforcement.
So then
And
the-
public hearings and all that kind of stuff.
The weather resistant objects, concrete, masonry, stone, or metal. Anything other, any other items are not permitted.
No,
Well,
any
the-
other items must be on the
Located
headstone,
on the headstone,
above,
other-
above,
above
Grade.
ground level,
Item.
Ground
above
level.
grade level,
Any other items must be located
that's a good way, yeah,
above grade
above grade,
on the
headstone,
headstone.
above grade. Is that
grade,
what
G-R-A-D-E.
not on the headstone,
you're saying? On,
not on the footstone, but
Not
on
on
the
the
headstone.
footstone,
above grade,
Headstone.
on the headstone,
on the headstone.
on the headstone, okay?
That gives them something to work with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
Yeah.
trying to, I mean, we're trying to allow stuff just as long as it's within a certain realm.
yeah.
Doesn't get
Yeah.
completely messy.
Now, how about like, flags, like garden flags?
It's up against,
Some metal,
yep, it's metal and
It's metal.
and then the fabric is above grade, so.
but stuff like solar lights, no offense. Solar lights are,
Okay.
Not yours.
I'll be on the-
but solar lights are pretty fragile. And weed eat around this thing and blow them
Oh,
up
yeah.
in many pieces.
You get the real cheap plastic ones.
If you have a certain size of flag, you have to have a light on it when it.
If you have a flag, an American flag, and the sun sets, a light must shine.
That's the
on
reason
that
solar
flag.
lights are shining on the flag.
Of a certain size.
Yeah, certain size of mine.
Yeah, but the size of hers, it's gotta have a light on.
Well, I don't guess Sharon's volunteering to take her flag down.
I
so
say let's
better
stick
find
with what we got right now. If a solar issue, we can deal with the
Solar.
solar lights. We've gotten a long ways tonight.
Yes, we have.
We've done well.
We have.
Let's-
We
I
have.
just don't want to hear them coming here and
When I
cancel.
die, they can-
If a solar light issue comes up, we'll address that.
We'll make
When
an
it comes
addendum to
up.
this.
And when I fix this, I'm gonna
Send
send
it.
it to y'all to post it before we put it in the packet, okay?
Okay, all right. Wow, guys, thank you.
Do you need a motion to
Good job.
send that to council?
I make a motion that we take that we present the revisions to the town council at,
Next,
Next.
no, I wouldn't say the next. 'cause-
Okay, hold on, I'm sorry, I don't mean, so now we're in the new section, and it says all 8 grade, 4 grade, 2 grade, and single grade lot sections are allowed one of the following: fresh cut flowers, potted plants, artificial
That you
flowers.
can take 6 out completely.
Okay, so take that out.
I mean, I don't see, that doesn't do anything for what our policy is now.
The first page is the entire cemetery. The second page.
Everything's the entire cemetery now.
Yeah, what you need to do is take out
Yeah, everything's the entire cemetery.
Okay, so then what this is, we'll just add these numbers below that.
it all.
Is that right?
It's all one cemetery.
And then the,
number 7 should
burial.
reflect with number 5 on the page before.
Okay. And, let's see.
I mean, to be honest, we
Okay,
don't
so
need, we
one
only
half
need
of
one
every
regulation then.
One
It should-
half of every corner of lot is hereby reserved by the town for planting shrubbery and trees.
One
That's only
half
in
of
the-
every corner of
That's only in the new cemetery, you said.
Alright, so
So
you
that's
can
all.
add
No,
8.
no, it's in all, it's not in the very old section, but if you go down,
I know, but what she's
But you
saying is
can't.
you need to take number 8 on that and put it on the entire
yes,
cemetery.
yes, on the entire.
So yes, that needs to be added to the entire
Okay,
policy.
so all these items, when they'll be added to below, in this, and it will be entire cemetery.
But you are gonna sell me those 4 lots.
Hmm?
You are gonna sell me those 4 lots.
With your stipulations, I think we'd be stupid.
I, yeah, I mean,
Well, then
that's
that
what they
doesn't-
want council the agreeable to do, but
Huh?
if that's what council's agreeable.
So then that should be a special exception that
Yeah, it
council
needs to come to
approves.
council, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the urn and the receptacle, urn, receptacle, only 2 urns, the cost, so none of that changed. So
No,
the urn and receptacle will still be separate, correct?
yeah, because that's a separate policy, one
Yes,
just
okay.
urns and receptacles.
Okay, gotcha. Is there anything you wanna go over in the code that you told me to put in here?
I'm burned
You told me
out.
to
So
put-
Christine, you made the motion,
I made the motion,
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay.
alright, sorry, let me get that cemetery policy, so,
And we have one more thing to talk about.
And send that to us.
Eric. And all in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Now, one more thing too, that we talked about, there is a downtown guest that stays with us, and he wants to put flowers on, and I think you mentioned that you all take the wreath, the Christmas wreaths off if they start looking ratty, of the people who don't live in town, or as you see, they don't.
At the cemetery?
The cemetery.
I picked up some stuff today. What I usually pick up is not so much whether it looks really bad, but if it blows off the
Blown
ground, I don't
off.
know where to put it, and it just blown to the cemetery. I usually pick all that up. If it really looks bad, I picked up some fresh flowers today. I picked up a
I'm-
pumpkin thing there the other day that was blown off, but when they look particularly bad, I do pick up some.
Well, it's Randy Johnson, his parents are Vivian and Dillard Johnson, and they live out of town, and they wanna, the florist will not pick up they put it on the grave, but they won't take it off.
You want me to get it? Is that what it is?
Can you do
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Oh, sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just tell me who it is and I'll go pick it
Tell
up.
Johnson, let us know, he's like our fire departments. Tell
Yeah, I mean, if anybody had, that's the ones we love. If they actually let us know and say, hey, we have something that needs to come off the cemetery, but we're not around.
I'll go get it.
Yeah,
tomorrow,
we'll-
and I just.
Well, I don't know if they have anything on there now, they just are reluctant to send anything on to the cemetery.
Because they don't want it to be left all year or whatever, I believe
Yeah,
is
and
what
have
they're
it
saying.
look ratty, and because the florist won't take it off, so,
I think Philip would certainly take a phone call and
They
say,
can call
yeah,
the fire department too, and we would take care of it.
okay, I will tell them that, okay.
that wouldn't be it.
I'll ride over. I go down there every day, so
Yeah.
it's no big deal to do.
Get on and take care of that. for us.
Okay, thank you. All right, very good. Now, we have the Armory referendum. is our next thing on our agenda. And, let's see, we have some material here. We've had a lot of discussion. We have a document in here from Tessie. The referendum would have to be a yes or no question.
Oh, it has to be yes and no.
Pardon me?
It has to be yes and no.
That's what
Yeah,
Tessie
Tessie's
said.
email regarding when the mayor sent out the email, that he had identified 3 different
Yeah.
items to put on a referendum, and her response was, and I'll read it for those in the audience if you haven't seen it. Huh?
Nobody can hear you. No, for the video.
And I'll read this very quickly from Tessie, and then copies are available to anybody if you'd like. After researching the question, I believe the referendum would need to be a yes or no question. See below the excerpt from section 24.2, 684, near the end of the statute, and that's Virginia State Code. Please keep in mind the referendum must be specifically authorized, so if we ask for a general referendum provision, it may or may not be enough in the judge's opinion. Also, the referendum has to be done pursuant to court order. Here's the relevant statutory language. The ballot shall be prepared by the appropriate general registrar and distributed to the appropriate precincts. On the day fixed for the referendum, the regular election officers shall open the polls and take the sense of the qualified voters of the county, city, or town, or other local subdivision as the case may be, on the question so submitted. The ballots for use at any such election shall be printed to state the question as follows, and as is here, state briefly the question, yes or no.
Now, we've had several of the council members have asked to have this put to referendum. I have Walter Mack, who is opposed to the referendum at this point in time. Is
Yes,
that-
ma'am, I am.
Okay. And he sent me some material about that. I think if we do the referendum, there's gonna have to be a lot of education to the community to what the specifics are going to have to be.
And Chris, we also just need to know as a community, as a town, we might vote ourselves into spending $8 million. Because if you don't have an armory and you decide you don't wanna do it, and you vote as a community to do it, and you say, okay, that's what we're gonna do now, because you don't know how much your new building really will be. All you're gonna have is